So Naomi Campbell just walked into Fashion Week looking absolutely flawless as always. Unbothered. Iconic. The kind of woman who has been on every runway, every magazine cover, every best-dressed list for 30 years running. And you know what? Good for her. I mean it. But baby, while she was out there serving looks, the internet has been absolutely losing its mind. And girl, I need you to sit down because we have some things to discuss. Because the February 2026 Department of Justice file dump just dropped millions of pages of Epstein documents. And Naomi Campbell's name is in nearly 300 of them. 300. So here's everything you need to know. Now, I want to be clear, Naomi Campbell has not been charged with any crime. Her lawyer has come out swinging and her team has been very loud about what she did and did not do. I hear all of that. But baby, after the Epstein files have basically confirmed things that people were called crazy for saying out loud, you really cannot just scroll past 300 mentions and act like it's nothing. Even I'm sitting here going, okay, but what exactly was going on? Because here is what is confirmed. She flew on his plane multiple times between 2001 and 2003. Pilot depositions and flight manifests put her on that aircraft at least 5 times. She was invited to her own events that he attended. She had ongoing assistant-to-assistant communication that continued for years. And mind you, not just before his conviction, after it. The emails keep going well past 2008, which is when Jeffrey Epstein was already a convicted and registered sex offender. So the timeline here is not a brief social overlap at one party, and then she never spoke to him again. That is not what these documents show. And the fact that his name conveniently kept showing up in her orbit for years after everyone knew what he was definitely says a lot. Not saying what it says, but it says something. Now, the thing is, Naomi has been on the record since 2019 calling his actions indefensible and saying she stands with the victims. And honestly, that video she put out felt genuine. You could tell she was not happy about being associated with any of this. But baby, then the 2026 files dropped and suddenly her lawyer Martin Singer is back out here releasing statements and her Instagram is posting clarifications and it is giving very much. We are not as done with this story as we thought we were. And guess who the internet immediately started digging into the moment those files went public? So after all these years of Naomi maintaining that she barely knew the man, she pops back up in the headlines with nearly 300 document mentions, victim testimony placing her at his properties, and emails signed off with words that have raised more than a few eyebrows. Not only is her name all over the call sheets and schedules, but she was still communicating with his inner circle in 2015 and 2016. And she is now having to go back on the record all over again to explain herself. And the fact that this keeps happening every single time a new batch of documents drops definitely says a lot. Let's be so for real. Now, people have been digging into the receipts since the files went public, and baby, all I have to say is the receipts never lie. The first one that sent the internet into a full spiral was an email from 2015. Naomi's assistant reached out to Epstein's longtime assistant, Leslie Groff, and the sign-off on that email read, and I want you to hear this clearly, I want to see Jeffrey. Exhausted babes. 20. Exhausted babes. Girl, I have questions. What does that mean exactly? Who are the exhausted babes? Is that a term of endearment? Is that a reference to other people? Is that just how Naomi Campbell closes emails? Because I need context that these documents are simply not providing, and that absence of context is doing a lot of heavy lifting right now. And then in January 2016, there is another exchange where her team reached out requesting use of Epstein's private jet to fly to Miami. The request was denied. He offered a charter instead, and there is no record of a follow-up. Mind you, this is 2016, 8 years after his conviction, 8 years of knowing exactly who and what Jeffrey Epstein was. And then there is the victim testimony. An unnamed FBI victim, 18 years old at the time of her interview in 2019, stated that she saw Naomi Campbell at a dinner at Epstein's New York mansion. Another unnamed victim, who was 15 when she was introduced to Epstein's network, said that he specifically used Naomi's name and her connections to Victoria's Secret to promise modeling opportunities to young girls. And this is where it stops being about parties and starts being about something else entirely. Because Epstein managed the finances of Les Wexner, who owned Victoria's Secret. That connection was real. And using a supermodel's name to dangle that world in front of teenagers who wanted to be discovered, that is a documented part of how his recruitment operated. Virginia Giuffre also stated that Epstein introduced her to Campbell directly. Now, her legal team says she has no recollection of meeting any of these women, and that if she had ever encountered a young woman she believed was being victimized, she would have taken immediate action. And I'm not here to say her lawyer is lying, but I am here to say that multiple people in separate interviews across different years are all placing her in the same rooms. And everyone cannot be telling the same lie. And then there was the Moscow Children's Fundraiser. In 2010, Naomi co-hosted a fundraiser for children in Moscow, a children's fundraiser, and Jeffrey Epstein, a registered sex offender, was on the invite list. Mind you, not just a guest who slipped through the cracks. Invited to an event for children. I know, just wild. Now, this is exactly why so many people online are saying that what happened with Naomi is not just about being in the wrong social circle at the wrong time, because the pattern that keeps emerging across all of these documents is that Epstein did not collect famous friends for the fun of it. He used them. He used their names, their access, their glamour, and their credibility to build a world that looked legitimate from the outside. From Prince Andrew to the finance executives, to the scientists, to the supermodels, the structure was always the same. Surround yourself with people whose presence makes everything look normal, and then use that normalcy to do the things that were anything but. And Naomi Campbell was, by every document in that file dump, one of those people. Now, does that make her responsible for what Epstein did? Her lawyer would say absolutely not, and honestly, the official record backs that up. She has not been charged. She has not been named as an accomplice, and no victim has filed a lawsuit naming her as a procurer. But baby, there's a very wide space between criminally liable and completely innocent. And that is exactly the space these 300 documents are sitting in. And look, I understand the frustration of having your name attached to something this dark when you maintain you had no knowledge of the crimes being committed. That is a genuinely terrible position to be in. But the emails are real, the flights are real, the victim testimony is real, the children's fundraiser invitation is real. And girl, those things do not disappear because a statement gets posted. What I will say is this: Naomi Campbell is far from the only person in those files who has issued a similar statement. The pattern across the entire Epstein document universe is almost identical every single time. Name surfaces, lawyer releases statement, social media post goes up, story cycles for 48 hours, then everyone moves on until the next file drop. And each time the person at the center says they knew nothing. And each time the document suggests the relationship was a little more than nothing. But now I want to know your thoughts. Do you think Naomi Campbell knew more about Jeffrey Epstein's operation than she has let on? Or is this another case of a famous name caught in a very dark orbit with no proof of anything more than bad judgment? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below.